これがマリアお姉ちゃんの言う魔法の力なの？
おう、魔法を知るということは、今まですぐそばにいたのに気づけなかったたくさんの友達に気づけるということ。
To know magic is to notice other friends right beside you you never noticed before.
まるで新しいおもちゃ屋さんが近所にたくさんできるみたいに楽しいこと。
If I too locked up in an academy without a single friend, had the same kind of power as Maria Onechan, I wonder if I could make my days just a bit richer. Well, it certainly isn't easy, especially at Anji's age. I mean, if it were that easy, then she would have done so by now. I wonder if I would become able to honestly shed tears on the nights I feel like crying, and crack a smile when the nights are gray.
できるよ。エンジェはできる。だってエンジェにだって魔女になれる資格があるもん。
魔女になる資格？
マリアも魔女になれる資格あるんだよ。だからまだまだ勉強中の修行中なの。きっと素敵な魔女になってほうきでお空をかけてケーンで虹を描いて飴玉を空から降らせるの。マリアはきっとできるよ。そしたらエンジェにも見せてあげるね。きっとそれは素敵な夢の中のような光景だから。
Maria Onechan said that, making an absolute promise with her smile. There's no way we can become witches, but when I listen to her speak, I believe that maybe we really could. And that is a promise, after all. At some point in the past, Beatrice did say that she always keeps her promises. Hell, she even said in the red as well. So I hope that you do so too, Maria. Because the fact is, that on this troubled night, when not a single flower of a smile could bloom, her magic has certainly given birth to a smile.
魔女になれるかな？
なれるよ。エンジェは少し年齢を重ねちゃったから魂が少し重力に惹かれちゃってる。
Not only bound by gravity, but one could say that she is chained entirely to the ground.
だからマリアよりも修行は大変かもしれないけど、でもきっとなれるよ。だってもうエンジェは魔法の一端に触れてるもの。
私が魔法？
うん。だってほら、もうこの世にはいない私をこうして呼び出して語らっているよ。
これは魔法なの？
うん。私が日記に残した魂のかけらをエンジェは魔法で膨らませて私を蘇らせてる。さっきも言ったよね。こうして私と再会して会話ができて時に笑顔を見せられるんだから、エンジェは魔法の才能がきっとあるんだよ。マリアお姉ちゃんが保証する。
お姉ちゃんはさっき言ったわ。私は日記を開いた時にしか会えないと思ってるけど、本当はいつも身近にいるって。私に魔法の力がもっとあれば、それを見て今こうしているようにお姉ちゃんと会話ができる？いつでも？
うん、いつでもお話できるよ。朝のおはようの時だっていつもそばにいるし、授業中だってそばにいる。退屈な授業は私とお話しして気を紛らわせようよ。食事の時には話し相手になれるし、お昼休みだってこれまでのようにいつも一緒にいようよ。放課後だって一緒にいるし、もちろん寮に帰ってからだって私はいつもそばにいる。日記を広げた時にしか私を見てくれないだけ。
日記を閉じてもマリアお姉ちゃんは 私のそばにいてくれるんだよね。
いるよ。だからエンジが私を見ようとして、そして話そうとしてくれれば、私はきっと答えられるよ。
I wonder if that is something that is gonna go beyond Maria, and maybe Angie's gonna be able to see other people as well, not just her. Only time will tell.
しっかりと見て、話そうとしてくれれば。
私、やってみる。
簡単じゃないよ。いきなり上手くなんてきっといかないよ。
わかってる。きっと簡単じゃないと思う。でも私、マリアお姉ちゃんみたいになりたい。
おお、わかった。じゃあ、私をよく見て。しっかり見て。
Okay.
ゆっくり目を閉じたり開いたりして。いきなり長くつむっちゃダメ。私の姿を瞳に焼き付けては、それをまぶたの裏に染み込ませていくつもりで。
やってる。
Alright.
まぶたを閉じても私をイメージできるようになったら、そのままゆっくり柔らかく目を閉じていて。どう？まだ私が見えている？
多分見えてると思う。
じゃあ一度目を開いて。いよいよ本番。心を落ち着けたら日記を閉じて。その時一度マリアの姿は消えてしまうかもしれない。でも焦らずに心を落ち着けて。そしてまぶたの裏に染み込ませた私を逆に瞳に染み込ませていくつもりで、ゆっくりと虚空に私をイメージして。私を虚空に見て。
大丈夫。じゃあ閉じるね、日記。
Slowly, I closed the diary. When I closed the diary, a gray reality filled with dull air unfolded. Of course, Marione-chan's form disappeared. And give it all you got. Have courage. Take the first step into the world of witches. I felt like Marione-chan was cheering me on inside my heart. Cheering me on? Really? Isn't that just what I like to imagine? No, that's not it. I just convinced myself that it is, and that's why I cannot see her. Marione-chan is always by my side, and even now she's definitely there, cheering me on to do my best. And I can hear it. So I mustn't ignore it like it's my imagination or the inner voice of my own heart. Believe that Marione-chan is there. I mustn't doubt. I believe. When One-chan says she's always by my side, I must not doubt that. As I face that empty space, that empty back wall of the school building, amidst those almost heartlessly boring rays of sunlight, calling out her name as was so much easier said than done. And the chains of common sense which had clung to me until today sneered at me, telling me that calling out to the empty air was ridiculous. It was almost like being told to take a step forward off the roof of a skyscraper, overlooking a sea of lights. Marione-chan was telling me that it's alright, that I can do it. Stop thinking that you might fall, or that it will be foolish to take a step off a roof. And free yourself from those chains of common sense. I steadied my breathing. I concentrated my mind. Make the form of Marionne-chan you can see vividly on the inside of your eyelids. Rise to the surface in the empty space before you. Understand magic. Then see Marionne-chan.
Maria, お姉ちゃん。誰かいるの?
Suddenly answered by the sound of rustling bushes and a wild cry. I came to my senses. Apparently I hadn't been the only one behind the school building. No. I'd been so immersed in the world of the diary that I hadn't noticed that someone else had come afterwards. I recognized a group of three beyond the bushes. They were girls from my class. It felt as though they had come behind the school building to gossip about someone or talk in secret. I hurried out of that place, because it became known that I had been alone in a place like this, mumbling to myself. It would probably create more things for me to deal with.
言ったよね。言ったよね。マリアお姉ちゃんとか言ったよね。やばくない？心霊とか見えちゃってんじゃないの？あれ。
Oh, shut it.
後ろ宮さんって面白い。
I could hear the shrill, loud laughter from behind. Irritated and feeling that Marionne-chan had been made fun of, I left that place at a quick pace, and in a half run once I turned the corner. Fucking harpies. And I made it to One-chan's road with just a little more time. Frustrating, aggravating. Why does everyone get in my way? I've never gotten their way, not even once. I ran and ran, and it still felt as though I could hear their shrill laughs. Oh, hello there.
あんた、ビルのてっぺんから飛び降りたんだって？
追っかけがうざかったんで、ちょっと巻こうと思って。
Angie and an old gentleman wearing an expensive suit were alone in a massive, modern conference room. The conference room is equipped with all the latest equipment for presentations, while keeping intact a refined and composed atmosphere. That alone was enough to make abundantly clear the worth of the corporation that was its owner. However, Angie couldn't have cared less. Looking low from the road, she sat slowly in one of the high-class chairs for executives, with salaries probably north of 20 million yen.
下の方の階で改装工事してて、転落防止ネットがあるの知ってましたし。
Well, that's nice. Angie dismissed it with an offhand comment, when in reality, it had been a miracle among miracles. She had shot through several layers of safety netting for the remodeling project. Being caught by a multicolored banner adorning the atrium, slid down and off it. Being softly caught by a final banner, landed on the ground without a scratch. And then left that place at a brisk walk. It put Hong Kong movies to shame.
いくらネットがあるの知ってたったって、高さ200メートルの超高層だよ。もしも思い通りにならなかったら、今頃大変なことになってただろうや。
死んだら死んだで、それまでってことでもいいかなって思いまして。まあちょっとした運試しです。若気の至りってことで。
Angie shrugged coldly, as though saying that she had enough of that topic. At this, the old gentleman, who was looking at the world below through the window, burst into laughter. Who is this guy anyway?
運試しときたか。いやはや、やっぱり金蔵さんのお孫さんだね。
So you know Kenzo?
運符天符。天の流れに命を預けてもケロリとしてるその度胸。会長も博打に平気で命を懸けられる人だったが、これも後ろ宮の血なのかね。やっぱりあんた将来大物になるよ。悪いことは言わない。
Maybe I have something over here, right in front of me.
家出ごっこはこの辺で切り上げて、スマデラの家に戻ったらどうだい？
Sumadera family?
お母さん、実家と仲が悪かったって聞いてます。お葬式で初対面の人の家になんて行きたくないです。
The Sumadera family is my mom's family. It's a bit of an old family from Kyoto, and I believe it's strict in a way you could never have imagined from the frank way mom acted. The only person in the Sumadera family I had been on good terms with was Grandpa, who was living separately under the guise of retirement. Mom, too, kept up contact willingly with Grandpa, and had nothing to do with the rest of the family at all, nor they with her, to an ugly degree. Even for me, Grandpa's house was the only part of the Sumadera family I ever went to visit. Being young, I hadn't really understood it at the time. But I hear that Grandpa, as a man who married into his wife's family, was in an extremely weak position, and his relationship with Grandma was also bad. In fact, maybe you can even have said that he was hated by Grandpa, and confined to the house. Oh boy, another bad relationship. Probably due to misogyny as well, who knows. It isn't hard to imagine that because she had a soft spot for Grandma alone, Mom was probably also hated by the Sumadera family. As her daughter, I was probably also hated quite a bit. And yet, they had appeared for the first time at my parents' funeral, shamelessly going on about how I'd grown, like they could actually act like family after all this time. After Aunt Eva died, all the wealth of the Ushiromiya family was inherited by me. Oh, did Eva actually die after this? If they weren't after that, there's no way they'd have been able to say such disgusting words.
まあ、一人ぼっちになっちまって自暴自棄になりたいエンジェちゃんの気持ちもわからなくもないな。
自暴自棄とかじゃないです。小うるさいエヴァおばさんもやっとくたばったんで、久しぶりにのびのびと散歩してるだけじゃないですか。
Well, Angie did survive the fall off the skyscraper. However, and probably Eva thought that Angie truly died by falling off the skyscraper, and, well, that is the thing that actually killed her. Even though chances are she probably didn't find out that Angie was actually alive after that fall.
周りが大げさに騒ぎすぎなだけです。
Because that's surely not something that Eva truly wanted. Eva truly wanted Angie to suffer. You know, and if Angie were to die right now, then that would have been the end of it. They're all just after the vast Ushiromiya wealth I'm shouldered with anyway. They must think if they become my guardians, they'll be able to do whatever they please with that wealth. Just how many people have tried to act like a substitute parent and get close to me? I guess we can also include this guy over here as well.
エンジェちゃんも辛いことがあったら俺でよかったらいつでも相談してな。エンジェちゃんのこと実の孫みたいに思ってるんだからさ。
はあ、当面はノーサンキューということで。それより話を戻してください。
エンジェちゃん、何度聞かれたって 俺が隠してることは何もないよ。あの日の六軒島の唯一の生き残りが会長なんだ。その会長が何も語らずに言っちまった。俺だって何もわからないよ。すべては闇の中だ。
The old gentleman was one of a number of corporate heavyweights who, after Eva had passed away, had been entrusted with the business group she had built up. The one he referred to as the chairman, technically the former chairwoman, was Ushiomiya Eva. His company had once had a friendly relationship with Hideyoshi's company, and he had been a close friend of both Hideyoshi and Eva. We're having stronger and stronger connections over here. For that reason, after Eva lost Hideyoshi, he had become the only person to whom she could reveal her true thoughts. And Eva's heart had been torn by the loss of her family, and she had taken it out on Angie. He had also acted as a buffer between the two. So, although Angie didn't trust him, she too found him an easy person to pay a visit. Yeah, I guess so. Eva and Hideyoshi were among the people who knew this guy as well.
あの事件は、いや、事故か。事件なんて言っちまったら怒られちまうな。それは俺も世間やワイドショーと同じ程度の疑問は持ったさ。
どうしてエヴァおばさんは事故当時屋敷から2キロも離れたところにたった一人で、それも嵐の晩に。
当時金蔵さんは次の跡継ぎに誰を選ぶかで迷われていた。表向きは長男のクラウスさんってことになってたんだが、クラウスさんはあまり信頼されていなかったんだ。
それで親兄弟4人の中から公平に跡継ぎを決めるため、碑文の謎というゲームじみた試練を課した。
それは表向きだな。おそらく金蔵さんは初めからエヴァさんを当主跡継ぎにするつもりだったんだ。
Well, if we are to exclude the epitaph, I'm having my doubts.
長男が跡継ぎだという自らのルールを撤回してでも、クラウスさんと違い非常に勤勉で優秀だったエヴァさんに家を任せたかったんだ。碑文の謎を解いた者に家督を引き継ぐなどという新ルールは、クラウスさんから次期当主の肩書きを奪うためだけの茶番だったんだろうな。
茶番ってどういう意味ですか？
あの碑文は誰にも解ける必要はなかったのさ。適当に刑事機関を経た後、本当に金蔵さんが後を継がせたかったエヴァさんを呼び出し、その答えを与えるだけでいい。
So that's what you're thinking, eh? That Eva was the one that Kenzo truly wanted to succeed.
つまり、それこそが当主継承の証ってわけさ。
Thinking that whether she solved it or not, she would still get a headship.
それはワイドショーでは言われていない話ですね。
まあ、当主継承がうんぬんなんて話をしたら余計陰謀説が優勢になっちゃうからね。俺もバカじゃないからさ、誤解を招くようなことはわざわざ口にしないよ。
How can you be so sure about this? The way he told it went like this. At the time, the head of the Shinomiya family, Kenzo, diagnosed with little time left to live, was troubled over the problem of who was to succeed him. Normally, the successor would be fixed as the oldest son, Kraus, as laid out by Kenzo himself. But in his later years, Kenzo began to think that Eva was more fitting to be head. However, Kenzo, stubborn even to himself and obstructed by the thought of a successor he had given to Kraus, searched for an official stance by which he could skip over Kraus and select Eva as his successor. And that official stance was the riddle of the epitaph. The primary successor was still Kraus. But there was a new rule, saying that if someone appeared who could solve the riddle, they will be chosen as a successor to the head. And on the day of what would probably be his final family conference, Kinzo had told Eva the answer to that riddle himself. In short, it was the same as proclaiming that Eva was the successor.
エヴァさんはあの日、金蔵さんに呼ばれ、それを打ち明けられたんだ。そして、当主を引き継ぐため、当主だけが知る隠し館であるクワドリアンにエヴァさんを呼びつけたのだ。
Wait a minute, what? To the hidden mansion Quadorian?
で、一足早くその隠し館で待っていたエヴァおばさんは、そのおかげで事故の難を逃れたと。エヴァおばさんが全ての財産を奪うために事故を装ってみんなを殺し、自分だけ難を逃れただけかもしれない。
大衆氏はそう騒いでるな。だが俺はエヴァさんを信じてるよ。信ずるに足るポイントがいくつかあると思ってる。
例えば
今エンジェちゃんが指に通してるその後ろ三宅当主の指輪だよ。その指輪は金蔵さんが特別に作らせた世界に一つしかない指輪だ。そして今エンジェちゃんが指にしているものは間違いなくそれだと作った細工師も認めてる。
The Shiromiya family head's ring. That ring, with a half of gold and a one-winged crest on it, had diamonds adorning the pedestal, and possessed both state lines and a sense of gaudy extravagance. Kinzo had worn that on his finger, never removing it for a moment. Okay, well, before we continue this, let me finish a thought that I was thinking of before I was distracted by the hidden mansion Quadorian and such. I guess from this guy's perspective, or what the news is talking about, I guess one could say that Kinzo created that epitaph to make like an excuse to make us think that Eva won the headship fair and square, where in actuality Kinzo would want Eva to get the headship, whether she solves the epitaph or not. And when she gets the answer from Kinzo, Eva would fake that she found the gold as such. Because if this epitaph was not there to begin with, and Kinzo told Eva that she would be the new head of the family, then there would be a little bit more of a scandal. Even though, if it were after me, even with the epitaph, if Eva was the one that found the gold and won the headship, then there would be scandal nonetheless between the siblings. So, I don't know. Could this really be a theory, though? That... That there could be the possibility that Kinzo actually told Eva the answer. And then she went there and found the gold herself to prove that it exists to begin with. Could it be possible that Eva didn't even find the solution herself? I mean, if what I saw was a magical claim, then yeah, possible. Especially if I were to go with the theory that whatever Balor sees is the one that I should truly trust, and anything else could be a magical claim and such. Because Eva believes in witches. I mean, the third game clearly made that point and such. So, can we really trust that Eva found the gold herself without Kinzo giving her the answer? Maybe it was one of her delusions, thinking that she found the gold herself. Though I guess that begs the question whether she found the gold herself or Kenzo told her. Is there really any point? Like, is that gonna help me with something? I'm not really sure.
その指輪を確かにエヴァさんが持つからこそ、そして実際にエヴァさんが優秀で、クラウスさんにはビジネスシーンでの数々の集大が知られていたことを加味すると、エヴァさんの話は全くの作り話とは思えないんだ。
その指輪を奪うためにおじいさまを殺害した可能性だってあるけれど、そしてエヴァおばさんは何らかの細工をして事故に見せかけて一族を皆殺しにした。
そうだな。大衆紙は財産の独り占めが目当てで一族を皆殺しにしたなんて言ってるようだな。確かにエヴァさんはここ一番では随分思い切ったこともしちゃう人だよ。あるいは後ろ宮家の財産を独り占めできるチャンスに生涯でただ一度の殺人を犯したかもしれない。
He really makes me question what kind of mental gymnastics the media and such made to make themselves think that it was an accident. Unless they consider an accident those kinds of moments where the people killed each other in the process. For example, we have Hideyoshi, Kiri, and Rudolph in the main hall of the mansion, and they shot themselves to death. And, well, there wouldn't be any murderer in that case, like an extra fourth murderer. It's just that they shot themselves to death. And same thing happened with the rest of the family, though? Could be possible, I guess. Like, for example, George killed Natsuki and Kraus, and then he killed himself, or Kraus and Natsuki killed George, and then they ended up killing each other? You wouldn't really think of this as an accident, though. It was just a bunch of separated episodic murders that happened to each other. Yeah, technically you wouldn't say that there is one common murderer, but at the same time, you wouldn't consider it an accident. Like, how would you even consider this an accident? Like, every single person died on that mansion except Eva. Unless, I don't know, somebody actually burned the mansion and everyone was inside the mansion all trapped. Someone started a fire by accident and everyone died in that except Eva. But I didn't really hear that. Or there was like an atomic explosion that destroyed the mansion, but again, we don't hear of any explosion inside the mansion. Like somebody tripped like an explosion inside the mansion by accident and that killed them. So, no, that clearly doesn't... Like, I clearly haven't heard of that from what has been discussed up until this point. So... something tells me that this has something to do with lobbyists being hired by Eva to make everyone think that it was an accident and such. That seems to be, like a thing. Like, even though it will be really hard to explain that it was an accident, there could be some connections made here by lobbyists and politicians or government or whatever, the police and such, that have made it possible to make the media think that it was an accident, even though you couldn't even explain it that well.
だがね、俺はそうは思わない。
そう信ずるに足るポイントの2つ目は？
エヴァさんのご家族だよ。秀吉さんにジョージ君。エンジェちゃんはにわかには信じがたいだろうけど、エヴァさんはあれでかなり家族を大事にする人だったんだ。
He was right. I found it very hard to believe that, or admit it. But deep inside I knew. Aunt Eva really had been a person who treasured her family greatly. The root of her twisted personality had been nothing more than the sadness of losing her beloved husband and son. Having been used as an outlet for all that emotion, I had no feelings of sympathy for her at all. But even so, it's not like I couldn't even imagine that losing her entire family had dealt her an incredible shock sufficient to transform her personality. To the point of herself being the killer of her own son and husband? Well, we've known that Eva was... She was affected by her past because of Kenzo and her family and all that. We've seen moments and Hideyoshi's description of Eva that she is a bit unstable and such. So to think that she will kill her own son and Hideyoshi? Well, it could be possible under certain circumstances that she wasn't thinking clearly or she was completely unstable upon hearing some news, and by accident she kills them. I mean, I did make that theory that, hey, Eva finds out that George is in love with Shannon. Eva finds George in the parlor with Shannon's body inside the parlor. And then she finds out from George that he actually loved Shannon and all that. And that will make her completely go crazy and shoot George in the process, even though she didn't want that. That is one thing. That, or we're talking about a hidden culprit, whoever that is, who is in cahoots with Eva. But that is a topic for a different day. But if we are to think of Eva as the murderer of Hideyoshi, I wouldn't be able to know the reason for that. Like, what would lead to Eva killing Hideyoshi in the process? Unless Kiri and Rudolph managed to kill Hideyoshi and such. But if she were the killer of Hideyoshi, I wouldn't really see any motive for that. Like, what led to Eva accidentally killing her husband? I mean, it's not like there are like any hidden hints out there that tells us that Hideyoshi was cheating on Eva or something like that, right? I mean, that surely doesn't sound like Hideyoshi at all. My god, please don't tell me that's gonna be a case. Please don't tell me that I'm gonna find out that Hideyoshi was cheating on Eva. I mean, come on.
家族を愛したエヴァおばさんが夫と息子を見捨てるわけがないと？
そうだ。もし本当にエヴァさんが犯人で一族を事故に見せかけて皆殺しにしたならば、夫と息子が絶対に生き残ってるはずなんだ。偶然自分の家族だけが隠し館にいたとへりくつをこねてね。
I'm just gonna go ahead and say that it's neither black or white, whether we're talking about just the hidden culprit who killed everyone or Eva killed everyone. It is a mix between the two. Some people were killed by this hidden culprit and some people were killed by Eva. And it just kinda depends on what is what.
もし秀吉さんとジョージ君も無事だったなら、さすがの俺でもエヴァさんの陰謀を疑ったろうよ。俺は秀吉さんの葬儀で見せたエヴァさんのあの号泣を演技だなんて到底思えんね。
どっちも状況証拠的ですね。
I mean, you could definitely think that somehow, even though I don't know how, Eva killed Hideyoshi by accident, and of course she would be grieving. She would be wailing at her husband's funeral for what she did, as some form of mistake and all that. Same thing with George. It's not like we can say that Eva never cared about her husband and her son to begin with, for her to not have like any reaction. Reason why she was truly capable of killing her entire family as well, in that sense.
エヴァおばさんの潔白を物理的に示すには至らない。
Yeah.
それを言っちゃおしまいだよ。生き残ったのはエヴァさんのみ。その彼女がそれが真実だと言うんだからさ。
でも彼女の潔白は誰にも証明できない。
ああ、そうさ。そして彼女の犯行も誰にも証明できない。そして信ずるべきポイントの最後が警察だ。
Sorry.
何しろ派手な事件だったからね。陰謀説を騒ぐ世論に後押しされて警察が随分とエヴァさんを調べたはずさ。
It's easy to feel something unnatural about the claim that Eva had escaped the accident by coincidence, because she and she alone had escaped to a hidden mansion. Furthermore, at the time, Hideyoshi's company had been right in the middle of a takeover struggle, and had wanted a large sum of cash in order to buy off the big stockholders. It shouldn't be too hard to find a motive there. But as a matter of fact, en route to the family conference, Eva's person had been perfectly clean. Nothing unnatural was found on her that could have been used to brutally murder her family and make it look like an accident. The first servants who escaped harm by being off duty on that day also stated that they hadn't seen anything strange regarding anyone related to the event, Eva included. Oh, you can certainly hide things in the forest, and nobody would be able to find it, like ever. The island is pretty huge. I mean, if she were found at the Kuadorian mansion, then en route, she could have hidden the murder weapon or anything that would incriminate her. Putting all that together, it could only be concluded that Ushiromi and Eva had headed to Rokkenjima for a normal family conference, no different from usual, and became involved in an accident.
警察があれだけ散々調べて事件性を見出すことができなかった。警察がそう断じた。それでロッケン島疑惑は決着じゃないのかな。
Yeah, I mean, it was the police's conclusion. You could argue that this is also the police's incompetence.
それは単に警察は事件性を発見できなかったってだけの話じゃないんですか？
Yeah. It doesn't mean that the evidence doesn't exist somewhere out there.
それを言い出したらキリがないな。悪魔の証明になっちまうよ。犯罪を暴くには証拠を見つければいい。でも無実を示すには何を見つけりゃいいんだい？消極的事実の証明は不可能だ。
エヴァおばさんが犯罪を犯したか否か、それを判断する材料が見つからないから、そのまま真相は迷宮入りということですね。
Yeah. And it's not like the devil's proof is going to be any useful in a court of law. Alright. Might as well consider this place my new sanctuary. Alone with my thoughts. Gotta keep it cool. Keep it cool. What's up, champ? Have you eaten your Lucky Charms Rice Krispies yet? Hey there, Mage Noby. Someone here is deep in thought and needed a break. Is that right? Yep, yes indeedy. And I prefer a little peace and quiet for a while to recover. I understand. Good. You're not gonna leave until we talk though, are you? You've read my mind like a wizard. So, come on, open your heart. Solving a murder mystery has always been the end goal in order to achieve a better future for those still alive, for those involved, to bring a smile to someone's face after a gruesome tragedy. Whether we're talking about a happy ending for everyone or a bittersweet ending, reaching the absolute truth is something that was always required, whether one likes it or not. This is A weird one, though. This is more than just trying to solve a murder mystery through your typical detective methods. Even though that is what I'm also trying to accomplish here. And I don't think that figuring out who the human culprit is will solve everything, in my eyes. Which is why you still believe in Beatrice, even after the supposed betrayal. Is that right? The magical component of all this is... it is something that still needs to be figured out. Maybe that is why I believed that, deep down, the reason Beatrice betrayed us is because she had no choice. Even if she is now questioning her ways as a witch and trying to correct herself, she still has to deal with Lambda Delta and Bercastel. And basically she's stuck between a rock and a hard place here. Like maybe she always had in plan to betray us the way she did at the end, from the very beginning. Intentionally creating Beatrice, intentionally fighting her, intentionally helping us. But deep down, something inside her changed somewhere down the road and is questioning her ways and wants us to help her in whatever plan she has for us. I sensed at the end that she didn't want to betray us, but she had no choice. Because if we were all buddy-buddy right now, then whatever plan she has would be ruined. And thus, we want to help her. In which case, what is the problem, champ? It is me siding with the magic side in the first place. Not necessarily that I'm siding with the witches, but believing in the magic in general. And do you think that is bad? It's risky. When Angie was reading Maria's diary, and Maria was telling us her past with Rosa and Sakutaro, I can sense that it is sugar-coated. I mean, we are looking at things through a magical lens. Through the lens of an innocent child. I mean, there is no doubt that Maria was feeling alone because Rosa was out there doing her thing. That is why she had Sakutaro as her new friend. The moments we've seen of Sakutaro and Maria together, while beautiful, they are hiding something even more tragic. And do you think that is the case with the games you went through as well, don't you? The magic scenes were tragic, but maybe they are hiding something even more tragic that I'll have to figure out if I were to solve the red web of truth myself. Magic is nothing more than a veneer of rainbows and sunshine, coating a hidden bloodbath ready to destroy you. If you believe in it the way you are now. Once you get sucked in by Beatrice's tears and her struggles, it will be all the harder for you to recover once reality hits you in the head. After all, what is magic other than another form of escapism? You know that very well. You've seen it with your own eyes. So in order to understand what kind of tragedy I'm about to find out, like what lies behind the curtain and all, I need to understand what magic truly means. I mean, yeah, Maya did say that magic is discovering friends near you that you haven't noticed until that point, but I don't think that's something that is gonna help me at this point. Like, I need to figure out what magic truly represents in all this. What magic truly represents, eh? Well, you can have many definitions, depending on how you want to view it. We could talk about magic in a mystical, fantastical way, similarly to what you witnessed in Magic Claim, but let's go at it from a human claim perspective this time. Talk about magic from a human claim perspective. Yes, indeed. The 21st century magic. So, here's one way of viewing it. After a magic show, spectators do not leave believing what the magician does not think is true. Like, intentionally, you know. People, or at the very least those older than children, are not gonna believe that someone actually got sawed in half. Otherwise there will be blood and guts everywhere. People are always gonna begin watching the show knowing that what they're gonna see is tricks. Now, if you are to look at it that way, plain as day, then one would ask, well, why are people interested in seeing magic if they know it's not really magic, but a bunch of tricks? Well, one must not forget that showing magic is not just about the spectacle, but the intellectual game behind it. You mean to play with the perception of the spectators, and it's not an easy thing to do. Deduction is part of the game. People get really excited thinking, wait, how did the magician do this? How did he do that? Even the simplest trick in the book involves both high intelligence and skill coming from the magician in terms of doing the trick, and playing with the intelligence and skill of the spectator in terms of exploring said trick. To determine the truth behind the magic trick. The magician can be seen as the most honest liar you can imagine. The magician is showing magic and letting the spectators determine the intricacies behind the magic, without them ever explicitly telling their secrets. And that alone brings a lot of wonder. Okay, so I guess all of that can be seen as an analogy to me trying to figure out what the magic claims mean. And that Beatrice wants us to figure it out. I guess that's nice, but you still need to figure out what Beatrice is showing you. Well, not just that, but it is contradictory. Figuring out how magic works in a magic show can also be a wonderful thing. I mean, you respect the magician all the more, and respect magic, and it brings something beautiful. I am aware of that. However, same cannot be said about what lies behind Beatrice's magic claims. Again, there is definitely a level of tragedy that I'm about to witness. Maybe. But when you mine in a dark cave for a really long time, you may find gold right under you if you look hard enough.